Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Target Elevate. I'm Mike McNamara, I'm CIO here at Target. And in true hybrid fashion, I'm joining you from my office in downtown Minneapolis, and in a moment, Nancy King will join us from her home. And this is kind of it's some of the excitement about the new ways of working, which we're all just trying to figure out over the next couple of years. Well, I'm so delighted to be able to participate in Target Elevate again. I think it's just a smashing conference, and that's not just because of the great speakers and the great entertainment, but also because it supports this fabulous ecosystem of great women technologists out in India. And, I think that's really important because diversity has always been important to Target. I firmly believe that, if you're going to build great technology, then you need to have great technologists, and those technologists have to be representative of the ultimate end users of that tech. And as a retailer, a lot of our guests, over half of our guests are women. So really, really important to us. So delighted to be here again. I'm going to be joined now by Nancy King. Nancy is Senior Vice President of Product Engineering here at Target. And she'll tell you a little bit about what she does in her job. But I'd say the shortcut of it is the product engineers are the people who create all the new capability for Target, for our guests and for our team members.
Thank you, Mike. I have been at Target for 16 years, so I outdate Mike by a decade. Yeah. But certainly we have had a lot of change over the past 7 years while he's been with us. I came into Target because I wanted to solve really hard problems with really smart people. And I wanted a lot of variety over what that looked like. And my career at Target has been nothing short of that. I have enjoyed all of the problems and all of the teams and all of the people and the learning that I have had through that time. And so, while we are celebrating Mike as he graduates from Target into retirement, we are certainly enjoying the future and the path that we are on for success. The other thing that I have the privilege to do right now is to help shape our future of work routines and our return to office norms. And this is a really impactful one for me because I have been in technology for 20 years. I have sacrificed parts of my home, parts of my kids' routines, parts of myself to make sure that I could always be there and do the things that were important. And we have a chance to reset norms now. We have a chance to change what coming into the office looks like and what participating physically in an office looks like. And I am so appreciative of Target and how we are looking at that and the flexibility that we are approaching it with, because we can reshape to make it successful for all, not for those that determined that 50 years ago. So I'm incredibly excited about the future and what we are up to right now. So Mike, you mentioned that technology is only as good as the teams that are a part of it. And you have been a huge proponent of diversity in your teams. Can you share a time when you noticed the impact that had, when the lack of diversity made an impact?
Well, look, first, I think I'd like to emphasize, that diversity doesn't have to prove itself. I mean, you don't have to prove that diversity works. It does, right? We all know that. I see it all the time, and particularly at Target, where we do have a very, very diverse team. When you're creating new things, then what's really important is that you just have an abundance of ideas. And I love the creative process. I love creating new software, new technology. And that is always enriched by having people with just different perspectives, just different experiences, everybody chucking stuff in. So I think diversity helps every single decision, not just a few here and there. I think it has to be part and parcel actually of the creative process, how you go out and do things. And look, and as I said, I mean, all of our users, if you like, our guests, our team members out there, they just look like the rest of America. They're as racially diverse, gender diverse. as the rest of America. And I don't see any way and any time that it would make sense to have a non-diverse team create software for that group of users. And look, I've had, you know, my own personal experience of diversity pretty much burned into me at my last company, where we weren't diverse. And actually we ran really fast and really hard. Unfortunately, we ran really hard and fast in the wrong direction. And, you know, that just burned into me the absolute need for just direct and, you know, and different perspectives. So really, really important to me. Look, I'm going to ask you a question, turning back on you. So can you tell me maybe, you know, tell me a time that, you know, what was the most difficult job you took up in your career, or a time when you thought, well, why am I here?
Oh, there have been a couple, but here's the thing that like stands out to me the most. Like, I almost never think like I am qualified to go like jump and do the next thing. And what I have loved about you and your leadership and others at Target is that like you see the potential and you come tap me on the shoulder and say like, I think you should go do that, or like, we really need you to go lead this team. So there was a period of time, you know, like 3 or 4 years where I had like 5 different jobs in like 4 years. It was a lot of movement and I constantly jumped between things. And what I learned from that is that like the skills and the leadership ability that I had moved around, and it helped me fill in the dots of the big picture and all of the things. And that is very unique to Target, because that is not something that is common. The opportunity, the trust, the movement to be able to take on different problems and different opportunities. And I have just absolutely loved that about it. And that was certainly something that has helped me grow over the years.
Super.
Mike, you are leaving us after a hugely impactful several years. What advice will you have for all of us once you're gone?
Well, look, I would generally give similar advice when I'm asked that question. I think there's 3 big things. I think first, keep on learning, right? You know, learning is actually what makes you grow as an individual and makes you grow in your career. So, and I've always put a huge store on just learning and development. I think the second thing is work somewhere you love, and importantly, work somewhere that loves you back. I think, you know, there's no point. You spend way too much time at work not to actually have work as an enjoyable experience. So work somewhere you love and that loves you back. And then I think the third one is just don't be afraid to make mistakes. You know, way too often I see people just paralyzed by concern of, you know, what might be. And I think people overestimate the downside of things. So don't be afraid to make mistakes and embrace change. You know, if those years ago in Target, we went all in on the product model, it could have been a disaster. It wasn't. It turned out to be one of the best things we ever did, because we, you know, products that were releasing once or twice a year started to, you know, most products now release weekly or even daily. So it ended up thing. But the reality is, if you look at that decision, even if we got it wrong, we just could have reverted after a year and it would have been so on. Yeah, right. But actually, and it turned out to be right. People always overestimate the downside and they always underestimate the upside. Don't be afraid to make a change. Yeah, don't be.
I love that message, especially to a female audience at Elevate right now. Like, we tend to overemphasize the negative risk and downplay the positive. And exactly like you just said, like, you came in, you made changes that were already in flight in some ways, and burned the bridges behind it and moved forward. And there was so much benefit to the organization because of that.
What do you see as next for Target Tech?
Oh, there is so much. Like, I get questions from peers at other companies, like, how do you sell the tech agenda? How do you get people on board with what you're trying to do? And I'm like, I am the most popular person in the company. Like, I don't have to sell the agenda. Like, they all come to me. Like, they all understand the impact that technology can have to our strategy. And there is no part of our strategy that we have shared publicly, that we are working on, that is not driven in some way by the software engineering that we drive through the product engineering teams, through the tech team. And so I am amazingly inspired by every single moment, every single guest experience that we walk through, that we see in the store and can connect. I know the little pieces and parts that we connected to make that happen. And I think for us at Target right now, we're on this kind of midpoint on a maturity journey. Like when you came in 2015, we really changed the culture, and we have more room to go and more opportunity. So we have conquered the fundamentals, let's call it. There is so much more opportunity, and that's what makes me really excited. The idea of driving strategy and growth from everything that we can deliver every single day in an environment that feels good, like that feels helpful, that feels like you can learn and supports you and helps you understand how work and life can balance. And as a working mom, I have two young sons, they're 11 and 9. That hasn't always been easy. And certainly like my employers before Target did not make that easy. And so there is a very real part of making your life whole and helping to contribute in all the parts. And like I started with, I really believe Target helps balance that and respects that and supports that. And that's why I stay after so many years. And that's why I'm so excited for what is going to come.
Well, Nancy, thanks for that. I mean, I think that's very inspiring, and and it clearly resonates with my own experience. I think, you know, I've never worked anywhere where the culture is quite as warm and human and people centered as Target, and I think it's fabulous, and we get to do, like say, meaningful work, and you know, bringing joy to our guests and to our team members, and we get to work with great tech. So I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's been the best part of my career. And you know, with leaders like you coming through, I know that the future of technology and the future of Target is in safe hands. So thanks for joining us here today, and thank you everybody for joining us for this session.